I'm Silona, and I'm with the League of Technical Voters, and we're here talking about how we're going to get to the Illuminated federal budget project. It actually ends up being a lot more than just the federal budget, and that's one of the things that we wanted to express with this demonstration, is show all the different big pieces that are involved. I'm going to talk about two of them, and then Edwin's going to come in and talk about the third portion. Basically, the big pieces that we're looking at is, first of all, getting the data together, and for that we're going to talk about the abstract database model. And then we're talking about doing how do we get all of our people involved, and that's where we come into the free and open source social network that we're working on. And then lastly, we have the connections aspect between the data and the people, and Edwin will be talking about that. That's our Connect the Dots project. The people aspect and the connection aspects, I think, are going to be landmarks in regards to how we look at a lot of different aspects, especially, well, for me, obviously the identity portion, since that's my baby. And Edwin will convince you of the connections portion too. So let's go ahead and get into those different pieces. So I'm here to talk about the first aspect of our big pieces, and the very first one is getting to the data. When creating this solution, we wanted to create something that would work for any and all legislation, and looking at the federal budget as being the hardest use case. We wanted to create something that could eventually handle any legislation as well as documentation and commentary. So what we did is we came up with the idea of creating an abstracted database. This way anyone can go in and start documenting whatever legislation they would like to document. It doesn't have to be in America, it doesn't have to be federal, it doesn't have to be state, it doesn't have to be city, it can be all of those. So this is a key portion to creating this project. So what would happen is, first of all, we go in and we take the legislation and we fragment it. This is the only way that we can address something like the federal budget. If you try and address the federal budget as a whole, you could never ever conquer it. But if we take it and we break it out into paragraphs and we break it out into issues that individuals can take ownership of, then we finally have something that people want to use and participate with. Because people don't participate with a bill, people participate with a topic. And we want to sit there, and by tagging it and fragmenting it, we can make it more topic focused. By then going in and doing this fragmentation, we can then create permalinks so that we can watch those individual pieces of that legislation as it's coming up, and people can link into it. Well, they need to know when that changes, and so we're going to have RSS feeds or some other form of change notification available so that people know when the content that they've permalinked into has changed, and they can change their own documentation. One neat thing about going in and making all this abstracted is then we have room for open API development. So that if people do want to start working more in regards to some of those legislative structures, like say they do want to boil down into exactly what their city API might look like, they can go in and do so, and it doesn't affect the actual software that sits on top, the connection software that we're creating. We know that there are a lot of smart people out there who want to work more in regards to policy development, and they want to mirror different processes, and they want to go in and do all that. Well, it's not exactly appropriate to do that in the Connect the Dots tool, as you'll see once Edwin describes it. But this would be the structure where that would be more appropriate, where you're watching the changes, where you're watching the differences coming in. So I highly encourage the different groups that we're working with to put all that in this abstract data location. Thank you.